huli sa daan, biglang tumigil ang tren. Nasira na naman, bulok na nga ang sasakyan, bulok pa ang patakaran. Tumambay doon sa kanto, nasilip ko sa dyaryo ang ating teritoryo, binigay na sa Chino. Ang sabi ng palasyo, utang ng loob ito, wag daw tayong magreklamo para sa ating pag-asenso. Oh, pagbabago, oh, nagbabago. Anong klaseng pagbabago?
Anong silbi ng train kung ang sweldo'y walang gain? Manang pangako, korupsyon ay hihinto. Ang droga at ang endo, wala namang nagkatotoo.
Ang gusto ng Pangulo at mayorya ng Kongreso, baguhin ang gobyerno, federalismo na tayo. Ano ba ang dahilan ng gulo at kahirapan? Forma ba ng pamahalaan o namungunong kawatan? Oh, nagbabago. Oh, nagbabago.
Anong klaseng pagbabago?
Ito ba ang gusto mo? Sinukulat ang mga tao, huwag kang malilito. Lahat pinatatahimik, martial law ay ibinalik. Tayo ay hinati-hati, tinatakot, tinagalit. Ang totoo ay sinusupil, ang wasto'y minamali.
Huwag kang mag-alinlangan, kakampi mo ang kasaysayan. Kung yuyurak ka ng karapatan, karapatan din ang lumaban. Doon ay nagkaedsa, bumagsak ang diktadura. Lahat ay sama-sama sa pagkakaisa.
Oh, pagbabago. Oh, nagbabago. Ay, grabing pagbabago. Ito ba ang gusto mo? Oh, pagbabago. Oh, nagbabago. Ay, grabing pagbabago. Ito ba ang gusto nyo?
I propose that if I am president, I would get rid of criminality, drugs, and corruption. Just give me 3 to 6 months. promise you a comfortable life under me. Comfortable.
Proclaiming Rodrigo Roa Duterte as the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines and Maria Leonor G. Robredo as the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Pinakasan nila ng ganun-ganun na lang yung anak ko na wala silang ebidensya.
Inosente po ako, wala pong katotohanan, pawang kasinungalingan ang mga pinaparatang po nila sa akin.
Pinaril si Alvarez sa likuran noong Lunes sa Bacolod City nang di pa nakikilalang salarin. Doble dagok ito para kay Palabay na noong araw na iyon, inilibing lang ang peace consultant at anak pawis chairman Randall Ichanis.
This is ABS-CBN Corporation Channel 2 in the service of the Filipino. Now signing off.
Muling inaresto ang CEO ng Rappler na si Maria Ressa sa pagkakataong ito para naman sa kasong paglabag sa anti-dummy law. Muling ginikit ng palasyo, hindi ito issue ng press freedom.
Paano umabot ng 50 million pesos ang price tag ng kalderong ito? Pumalag ang PhilHealth sa akusasyong mula ulo hanggang paa ang korupsyon sa ahensya.
Kahit may banta umano sa kanyang buhay, humarap sa Senado si Alison Alex Chong, isang frontline immigration officer mula 2012. Si Chong ay naka-assign sa NAIA at may personal daw na kaalaman sa Pastilla Scheme.
Sasakay ako ng jet ski, dala-dala ko yung flag ng Pilipino at pupunta ako doon sa airport nila, tapos itanim ko.
Paulit-ulit na kasi. Tapos, imbis na bumaba, tumataas pa lalo. Tumataas pa yung cases ng COVID sa atin.
Halos 700 pamilya ang tinatayang palaging nakakaranas ng gutom.
₱1,000 kada tao ang inilaan ng gobyerno na ayuda para sa mga pinakapektado ng pagdedeklara ng Enhanced Community Quarantine sa Metro Manila.
Na-expose din na kailangan talaga yung food security sa ating mga Pinoy. Masaya na na-empower tayo kasi kailangan na natin magtulungan eh. Kasi tayo-tayo na muna habang kulang yung nakukuha po natin.
This group represents the democratic forces in the entire country.
Pangalan ng grupo ay 1Sambayan at sa ilalim nito ay yung tapat na pamumuno at maginhawang pamumuhay.
Mahirap magsinungaling sa kabataan, mahirap pagkunwari na yung bukas ay magiging maganda para sa kanila. And that's exactly why this group was formed.
Everybody we invited joined us from the left to the right. You have the poor, you have religious groups, the established traditional parties, all of them, they said, yes, it's time that we join forces. Government that's dedicated, that's faithful to the Constitution.
Hanapin yung mga taong pwedeng magpakita ng tapat na pamumuno.
We have decided to come together to choose who are the best candidates for President, Vice President, and for Senators in the 2022 presidential elections. The purpose is that we should have the best candidates who will institute good governance in the country. It's a matter of an educational campaign. Everybody in society, whatever class you belong, you must understand that without good governance, we will never progress. Government funds will always be squandered. People must think. You have to look at the track record, the integrity, the character of the people you want to elect.
Tao sa puso, hindi lang yung labas sa ilong. Ang daming pinapangako, wala namang maibuga.
This government is really incompetent. They've been tested and everybody is saying, kulelat sila. So we have to offer a better alternative to our people because we don't want the same thing to happen again, to continue in the next 6 years.
Sino nga ba yung alternatibo? Di ba? Unang-una, tumututol sa patayan. Isang sukatan yan.
Ang leader, yung maaaring tumayo, will stand tall despite power around you.
If you have a president who says, I will jet ski to Scarborough, and then when he becomes president, he gives away Scarborough to the enemy, what will happen to us?
Kung gagalaw ba ang International Criminal Court, susuporta ba siya? Pagpatuloyin ba niya ang mga investigador? Yung traffic, ano ba ang tingin niya dyan? Ang Mindanao, ang tingin niya sa mga kababaihan, ang tingin niya sa moralidad, sa kultura. Paano ba siya gumamit ng salita? Puro ba mura? Puro ba pambabastos?
Sana makahanap tayo ng isang Pilipino na handang maglingkod ng buong buo para sa kapwa.
Kaya nating buhayin ang ating bansa na hindi tayo nagpapaalila sa ibang nasyon, hindi tayo nagpapatuta sa mga bayan gusto lang tayo pagsamantala. Sana matuto tayo kung gaano katapat sa atin ang Diyos, maging tapat din tayo sa bayan na kanyang minamahal.
This is a matter of national survival for us because we have to bring back good governance, respect for human rights, integrity and honesty in government.
Isang mapagpalayang hapon ngayong araw ng kalayaan sa inyong lahat. Sa mga nanonood at sumusubaybay sa ating live stream sa Facebook page ng 1Sambayan, sa mga nasa Zoom webinar at sa mga nanonood sa YouTube, nasaan mang dako kayo ng mundo, ikinagagalak naming makasama kayo sa ating napakahalagang pagtitipon ngayong araw. Ngayong araw na ito, 2 okasyon po ang ating ipinagdiriwang. Ang ating araw ng kasarinlan o kalayaan at ang simula ng ating paglalakbay tungo sa manimithing pagbabago para sa magandang kinabukasan. And as our title says, ang ating pagtitipunan ngayon ay isang boto, isang bayan. Piliin ang ating pambato. Tama po ang narinig nyo. Pipili tayo ng pambato at ito ay sisimulan natin ngayon gamit ang proseso ng isang bayan para sa bayan. Pero bago natin formal na simulan ang ating programa, let us prepare ourselves in the presence of the Lord before we sing our national anthem.
Pagpalain po ninyo ang aming pagtitipon ngayong araw ng kalayaan at kasarinlan. Bagamat malaya na kami sa mga dayuhang manglulupig, patuloy naman kaming nagdurusa sa talikalan ng kahirapan, dulot ng malawakang korupsyon at baluktot na pamamalakad ng pamahalaan. Panalangin namin na sana'y matigil na ang extrajudicial killings, mapabilis ang rollout ng bakuna at manumbalik na ang sigla ng ekonomiya. Para naman maibsan ang paghihirap at pagkagutom ng maraming nawalan ng trabaho sa pandemyang ito. Panalangin din namin na bigyang lunas ninyo ang pagkahati-hati ng isang bayang Pilipino at naway manumbalik ang kultura ng pagiging magalang at mapagmahal sa kapwa. Panginoon, ipagkaloob ninyo sa amin ang paghilom ng aming bayan. Pukawin niyo ang damdamin ng bawat Pilipino. Iukit niyo sa aming isipan ang kahalagahan ng pagpili ng tapat na pamumuno. At naway sa darating na halalan, ang bawat Pilipino ay magtakda ng panahon para magparehistro, bumoto at pumili ng mga kandidatong may integridad, kakayahan at subok na sa panunungkulan at may takot sa Diyos. Gabayan niyo kami dito sa Isang Bayan sa pagpili ng aming pambato sa 2022. Naway magkaisa kami sa aming boto. Isang boto, isang bayan. Ito ang panalangin namin dito sa Isang Bayan.
Nagkakasakit at naapektuhan ang kanilang mga kabuhayan.
Tatlo na malalaking minahan sa ating bansa ang ipinasasara na ng DNR. Unti-unti na rin kumakalat ang forest fire o yung sunog po sa bundok sa Bukod Benguet.
Mabilis ang pagtaas ng baha sa Rizal Avenue sa Arpapa sa boundary ng Maynila at Caloocan City. Kasabay naman ang pagragsa ng baha ay ang mga basura.
Sa tala ng World Health Organization, 7 milyong tao ang namamatay kada taon dahil sa air pollution.
O bayan ko, kailan ka mamumulat? Ang toto'y nakikita na pumipikit ka pa.
Kailan ba, kapag wala ka nang magagawa, kapag wala ka nang ibubuga,
bayan ko,
kailan ka matutulog? Sadyang ikaw ang kalaban mo, ikaw rin ang susubok.
Ngunit kailan, kapag wala ka nang magagawa, kapag wala ka nang ibubuga.
Bayan ko, kailan ka tatayo? Kay rami ng dugong inalay sa'yo.
O bayan ko, ang oras ay malapit nang maubos. Bangon na, bumangon bayan ko.
Kailan ka mamumula? Ang totoo'y nakikita na. Namimingin naman. Ngunit kailan, kapag wala ka nang magagawa, kapag wala ka nang ibubuga.
O bayan ko, kailan ka tatayo? Kay rami ng tugong inalay sa'yo. Bayan ko, ang oras ay malapit nang maubos. Bangon na, bumangon bayan ko. O bayan ko, kung magkasama-sama, tinig na sabay-sabay, susulong ka. Sugod na. O bayan ko, kailan ka ay rami ng tugong inalay sa'yo.
formally open our program ngayong hapon para sa isang boto, isang bayan, piliin ng ating pambato, pakinggan po natin ang mga sinasabi ng ating mga kababayan.
Ano po yung hinahanap mo sa susunod na leader ng bansa?
And ang quality dapat ng susunod na leader ay empathic or maawain.
Ay yung hindi sila nag-aaway-away, walang kurakot, basta sumunod lang sila sa batas.
Yung may malasakit sa kanyang kinasasakupan.
Yung kaya tayo paglaban sa ibang mga sa ibang mga lahi, hindi tayo pababayaan.
Yung talagang may paninindigan at malasakit sa kanyang mga nasasakupang mga tao, lalo na sa mga dukha.
A sense of professionalism, hindi pinepersonal ang mga bagay-bagay, hindi ginagamit ang kapangyarihan para sa personal na hinanakit.
Ay, gusto ko yung susunod na presidente, yung hindi masyadong malupit sa naghahanap buhay.
Yung maayos na pamamalakad na hindi tulad sa ngayon, na halos hirap na ang tao, wala na kaming maisain. May nahalaga ang papong nanay na 90 years old.
Ay yung tao na makikinig sa hinaing or daing ng ating masa.
Ang susunod na presidente ng bansa ay dapat isang huwarang lingkod bayan na nagtataglay ng makauring paninindigan upang masiguro na siya ay maninilbihan higit lalo sa interes ng mga manggagawa, magsasaka, kababaihan, pambansang minorya at kabataan.
Na-sensitive siya kung ano yung pangangailangan ng mga pamilyang Pilipino, kung may laman ba yung lamesa nila, kung may kinakain sila, kung may trabaho ba sila, and yung mga decision nila at mga programa naka-grounded kung ano yung pangangailangan ng masa.
Ang hinahanap ko sa susunod na presidente ay yung merong demonstrated na capacity, may political will, at may kahandaan na pumasok sa isang sagradong kasunduan sa sambayanan.
Ako po si Haya, anak ng isang jeepney driver at tubong probinsya. Ako'y naniniwala na nanganganib ang kalayaan ng Pilipinas. Ako rin ay naniniwala na pinapabayaan ng gobyernong ito ang kapakanan ng mga manggagawa at sektor sa ating lipunan. Kaya naman ngayong election season, ako ay boboto sa kandidatong kayang ipaglaban ang kasalukuyan ng ating bansa at kayang ipaglaban ang kabuhayan ng mga anak pawis gaya ng tatay ko.
Ang kabataan po ay isang malakas na pwersa kapag pinagsama-sama.
Yung boto mo talaga mapupunta sa tamang manunungkulan.
Ay, ang kahalagaan ng isang boto ay may buhay ng tao.
Ngayon naman, kilalanin po natin ang mga conveners ng isang bayan.
Buhayin sa sarili ang malayang paraan. Kung kaya mong isipin, kaya mong gawin, isa-isang hakbang lamang at ika'y makakarating. Tulad ng puno na galing sa binhi, ang mga dakilang gaway nagmumula sa guni-guni. Kung ang nais mo'y maging payapa sa mundo.
Alam nating lahat na hindi lang ito simpleng click and register sa isang event para sa maraming tao dito, kundi isa itong commitment para sa 2022 na pumili at suportahan ang ating mga pambato. And to tell you more about 1Sambayan and how you can join the movement, let us all hear it from one of our conveners, Brother Armin Luistro.
Ay sa mga dehado, ay di ka mas malakas ang taya, ay di sa amin sa Batangas. Mawala na ang yaman, ay wag lang ang yabang. Ay di ganyan ang sigaw natin noon, nung tayo dehado at inaapi. Di ka nag-iisa. Ay nung magpakilala ang 1Sambayan noong Marso, dumami ang mga Pilipino nakikiisa sa ating likiing isang tapat na pamumuno at mapagkalingang gobyerno. Abay katulad ng marami sa atin, hindi na rin natin masikmura ang nangyayari sa ating bayan. Pwede na bang walang nagugutom? Ba, hindi ka pwede naman ang ibalik ang kabuhayan. Kaya namang iwaksi ang talamak na korupsyon. Kalayaang nasa binggit ng kamay na bakal. Alam ganin nyo, ang nais ng isang bayan ay palitan ang masamang pamumuno ng tapat na pamumuno. Gusto nating palakasin ang ating kasarinlan at itaguyod kung ano yung atin, ang konstitusyon at ang tawag nilang sa English ay rule of law. Aba, nagtulog ang bayan o nagtutulog-tulugan? Eh kayo na humusga. Sa 3 buwan ng nakalipas na itong simula ng Marso, ito na ang mga hanay ng mga sumali sa atin. Bay, 2 buwan pa lang. Mag-4 na puna ang mga organisasyon at malalaking koalisyon ang sumali din sa ating isang bayan. Abay, tingnan ninyo, aring isama ko up. Ay mahigit na 3,000 ang nagpalista. Mga teacher, mga estudyante, magsasaka, driver. Eh may doktor pa at may abogado, manggagawa. Parinig kayo sumali na. Aray ang ambag mo sa kababayan natin. Kung gusto mo, mapabuti ang ating bayan. Abay, saan yan?
Noong unang inilunsad ang Isang Bayan noong March 18, meron na isang chapter na nabuo sa Iloilo. Sa maiksing panahon na lumipas, marami pang chapters ang nabuo. Hindi lang sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao, kundi pati na rin sa ibayong dagat. At para ipaliwanag kung paano kayo maaaring makilahok sa iba't ibang chapters, please welcome one of our conveners, Attorney Howie Calleja.
Ako si Renico, isa sa mga conveners ng Isang Bayan Youth. Ang kabataan ng pag-asa ng bayan. At bilang tagapamana ng ating kinabukasan, dapat kilalanin ang boses ng kabataan at estudyante sa lahat ng usaping panlipunan.
Inaapunan ko po ang kabos na albayano, mga plano, asin kabilugan kang Pilipinas. Pagpili po kita, kinsarong leader, para magtanos kang kabaluktutan. Ang albay para sa isang bayan.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ito po ang 1Sambayan Canada Chapter at kaisa niyo po kami sa paggunita sa araw ng kasarinlan sa pamamaraan ng pagsasama-sama tungo sa magandang kinabukasan ng ating bayan. Tandaan po natin na nasa ating kamay ang pagboto para sa mga tapat na mamumuno sa ating bayan. Ang boto natin ay boses natin.
Maalab na pagbati, ako si Julia Mariano, isang estudyante, ang representante ng 1Sambayan Taiwan Chapter. Mula kami sa hanay ng mga migranteng Pilipinong manggagawa at estudyante na kapwa naniniwala sa ating pagkakaisa para sa ating karapatan sa malinis na eleksyon at tapat na pamumuno.
Magandang araw po sa lahat. Ako si Mary Piratiro, isa sa bumubuo ng ad hoc committee ng 1Sambayan Qatar Chapter. Mahalaga at simbolikong araw na ito sa lahat ng mga freedom-loving Filipinos dahil ngayong araw ay bibigyan ng kahulugan natin ang tunay na kalayaan. Kalayaan para patalsikin ang isang traidor sa bayan at iluklok ang leader na tunay na maglilingkod sa bayan at kanyang mamamayan. Mabuhay ang 1Sambayan!
Maalab na pagbati mula sa 1Sambayan, Thailand. Ang tao, ang bayan, ngayon ay lumalaban.
Makabuluhang pagbati mula sa 1Sambayan, Australia na inilunsad noong ika-29 ng Mayo 2021 sa Mount Druitt Hub, New South Wales, Australia. Dinaluhan ito at binubuo mula sa malawak na hanay ng mga Pilipino-Australian. Ito ang simula ng pagpapalawak sa iba't ibang lugar tulad ng Victoria, Western Australia at iba pang estado. Mabuhay tayong lahat, mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino at para sa tunay na pagbabago, makialam, manindigan at ipaglaban ang inang bayan.
Kami ang bumubuo ng 1Sambayan Italy. Hinihikayat namin ang lahat ng ating mga kababayan dyan sa Pilipinas at maging sa buong mundo na magparehistro para makaboto sa darating na halalan sa 2022. Kailangan natin ang tunay na pagbabago at ng isang tapat na pamumuno.
Pinabati po natin ng 1Sambayan Philippines sa ating magiging programa ngayong araw at kami po ay nakikisa para sa online survey at pagpili ng ating mga kandidato sa darating na eleksyon. Mabuhay po ang 1Sambayan, sama-sama nating wakasan ang Administrasyong Duterte.
Kami po ang 1Sambayan South Korea Chapter, mga migranteng manggagawa at diaspora sa bansa. Kaisa kami sa malawak na sambayanang Pilipinong pagod na sa inutil na gobyerno ni Duterte. Tama na! Sobra na! Wala na!
Nadaanan ko ang pila, mga lumang sasakyan, hinuhuli sa daan. Biglang tumigil ang tren, nasira na naman, bulok na nga ang sasakyan, bulok pa ang patakaran. Tumambay doon sa kanto, nasilip ko sa dyaryo ang ating teritoryo, binigay na sa Chino. Ang sabi ng palasyo, utang ng loob ito, wag daw tayong magreklamo para sa ating pag-asenso. Oh, magbabago. Oh, nagbabago. Anong klaseng pagbabago? Ito ba ang gusto mo? Ang presyo ng medbay ay tumataas. Anong silbi ng train kung ang sweldo'y walang gain? Manang pangako, korupsyon ay hihinto. Ang droga at ang endo, wala namang nagkatotoo. Ang gusto ng Pangulo at mayorya ng Kongreso, baguhin ang gobyerno, federalismo na tayo. Ano ba ang dahilan ng gulo at kahirapan? Forma ba ng pamahalaan o namumunong kawatan? Oh, nagbabago. Oh, nagbabago. Anong klaseng pagbabago? Ito ba ang gusto mo? Kinukulat ang mga tao, wag kang malilito. Lahat pinatatahimik, martial law ay ibinalik. Tayo ay hinati-hati, tinatakot, tinagalit. Ang totoo ay sinusupil, ang wasto'y minamali. Huwag kang mag-alinlangan, kakampi mo ang kasaysayan. Kung iyurak ka ng karapatan, karapatan din ang lumaban. Noon ay nagkaedsa, bumagsak ang diktadura. Lahat ay sama-sama sa pagkakaisa. Oh, pagbabago. Nagbabago. Abay, grabing pagbabago. Ito ba ang gusto mo? Oh, pagbabago. Oh, nagbabago. Abay, grabing pagbabago. Ito ba ang gusto nyo?
I propose that if I am president, I would get rid of criminality, drugs, and corruption. Just give me 3 to 6 months.
I would like to
promise you a comfortable life under me. Comfortable.
Proclaiming Rodrigo Roa Duterte as the duly elected President of the Republic of the Philippines and Maria Leonor G. Robredo as the duly elected Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Pinakasan nila ng ganun-ganun na lang yung anak ko na wala silang ebidensya.
Inosente po ako. Wala pong katotohanan, pawang kasinungalingan ang mga pinaparatang po nila sa akin.
Pinaril si Alvarez sa likuran noong Lunes sa Bacolod City nang di pa nakikilalang salarin. Doble dagok ito para kay Palabay na noong araw na iyon, inilibing lang ang peace consultant at anak pawis chairman Randall Ichanes.
This is ABS-CBN Corporation, Channel 2, in the service of the Filipino. Now signing off.
Muling inaresto ang CEO ng Rappler na si Maria Ressa sa pagkakataong ito para naman sa kasong paglabag sa anti-dummy law. Muling giniit ng palasyo, hindi ito issue ng press freedom.
Paano umabot ng 50 million pesos ang price tag ng kalderong ito? Pumalag ang PhilHealth sa akusasyong mula ulo hanggang paa ang korupsyon sa ahensya.
Kahit may banta umano sa kanyang buhay, humarap sa Senado si Alison Alex Chong, isang frontline immigration officer mula 2012. Si Chong ay naka-assign sa NAIA at may personal daw na kaalaman sa Pastilla Scheme.
Sasakay ako ng jet ski, dala-dala ko yung flag ng Pilipino at pupunta ako doon sa airport nila, tapos itanim ko.
Paulit-ulit na kasi. Tapos, imbis na bumaba, tumataas pa lalo. Tumataas pa yung cases ng COVID sa atin.
Halos 700 pamilya ang tinatayang palaging nakakaranas ng gutom.
₱1,000 kada tao ang inilaan ng gobyerno na ayuda para sa mga pinaka-apektado ng pagdedeklara ng enhanced community quarantine sa Metro Manila.
Na-expose din na kailangan talaga yung food security sa ating mga Pinoy. Masaya na na-empower tayo kasi kailangan na natin magtulungan eh. Kasi tayo-tayo na muna habang kulang yung nakukuha po natin.
Inilunsad ang Isang Bayan noong March 18, meron na isang chapter na nabuo sa Iloilo. Sa maiksing panahon na lumipas, marami pang chapters ang nabuo. Hindi lang sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao, kundi pati na rin sa ibayong dagat. At para ipaliwanag kung paano kayo maaaring makilahok sa iba't ibang chapters, please welcome one of our conveners, Attorney Howie Calleja.
Magandang hapon mga kababayan. Ang Isang Bayan, mula nung tayo ay magsimula at mag-launch ng March 18 ay patuloy ang paglaki at pag-usbong ng ating mga chapter. Ang una nating chapter sa Negros chapter na pinamunuan ni Governor Lito Cusculluela. Sinimulan ito ng mga chapter natin sa Bicol, Maynila, Mindanao, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao at ngayon pati sa overseas, Europa, Asia Pacifico, Middle East at Estados Unidos. Tama po. Sabi po ng mga kritiko, tayo po ay nagsimula ng isang barangay. Pero magugulat na lang sila dahil pagdating ng araw ng eleksyon, Mayo 9, 2022, makakarinig sila ng boses ng libo-libong barangay at milyong-milyong Pilipino na susuporta united sa ating isang ticket para tayo ay magkaroon ng majority victory para sa halalang 2022. Pakinggan ang mga pagbati, mensahe ng mga ating mga chapter mula Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao at sa ibayong dagat.
On to the next part of our program, which is unveiling the selection process ng ating pambato. Isambayan has prepared a video for this purpose, and Father Albert Alejo will guide us through the whole process.
Marami pong nagtatanong, sino ba talagang kandidato natin? Kailan ninyo sasabihin? Mga kaisang bayan, malapit na nga po talaga ang eleksyon. Pero sa ngayon, kailangan po tayong magsuri bago pumili at hindi po ito madali at hindi po dapat minamadali dahil baka tayo magkamali uli. Ang tama pong kandidato ay hindi basta hulog ng langit o inuhugot sa isa lang pamilya o barkada. Lalong hindi po tama na dinadaan ito sa forma o pera-pera. Ang hanap po talaga natin ay yung mga magigiting na Pilipino na may tapat na pamumuno at ihahatid tayo sa maginhawang pamumuhay para sa ating bayan, lalo na po sa mga mahihirap. Kaya po, kasama tayo sa pagpili ng isang presidente, isang vice-presidente, at 12 magigiting na senador. Teka, ano naman ang magiging basehan natin sa pagpili? Maraming klase pong impormasyon. Take note hindi lang po isa. Una, mga impormasyon na galing mismo sa mga kandidato. Hindi po yung sabi-sabi lang ng iba, lalong-lalo na po yung sabi-sabi lang ng kalaban. Makukuha po natin yun sa mga interview, sa mga speeches nila, at saka sa mga plataforma na isusunitin nila sa isang bayan. O pangalawa, siyempre po, kailangan natin impormasyon galing sa mga kaalyado, yung mga kakampi natin sa isang bayan. At lilitaw po ito sa mga talakayang bayan at saka po doon sa ilalabas nating online voting. Mahalaga ito, pero hidagdag pa. At ang pangatlo, yung titignan din po natin yung resulta ng mga pampublikong survey. Yung mga ginawang pag-aaral ng mga nagsusuri sa lipunan, gayon din po yung mga rekomendasyon at pagsusuri ng mga pangkat na concern talaga sa lipunan. Pang-apat, may dagdag po tayong mga research o pagsusuri, pananaliksik na gagawin po ng isang bayan. Lahat ng ito ay pagsasama-samahin natin sa isang masusing pagpili. Masyado ba tayong mapili? Dapat lang. Kasi po, lahat tayo may kinalaman. Hindi lang po yung mga pinuno ang may katungkulan na ilagay sa tama ang ating bansa. Kung nagkamali man tayo nung una, ngayon dapat hindi na. Dapat po nating laging isipin na ang isang bayan ay para po sa tapat na pamumuno at maginhawang pamumuhay.
Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Salamat sa imbitasyon ninyo dito sa akin, sa talakayan ng kababaihan. Tinuturing kong karangalan ang mapabahagi sa ganitong klase ng pagsasama-sama ng iba't ibang sektor ng kababaihan. Mula sa probinsya, sa lungsod, at balita ko mula pa sa iba't ibang bansa kung saan ang ating mga masipag na Pinay ay naglilingkod bilang nurse, guro, domestic worker, caregiver, media worker, at artista din katulad ko. Sabi nila na ang Pilipina ay kaakit-akit, lalo na sa ibang bansa bilang mga service workers or professionals, dahil sa ugali nating unahin ang kapakanan at bigyan ng interes ang kung sino man ang ating pinaglilingkuran. Isa yan talaga sa mga nakakabilib na katangian ng mga Pilipina. Kaya't natural sa atin ang mag-alaga, maglingkod at magbuklod. Yan ang ating lakas na pinaghuhugutan para maprotektahan natin ang ating pamilya at mga bagay at taong mahalaga sa atin. Pero ngayong mga panahong ito, may mas malaking pangangailangan para sa ating lakas. Dahil hindi na lang ang hinaharap ng sarili-sarili nating pamilya ang nasa malaking panganib at kadiliman. Kailangan tayo ng bayan para maghanap ng hustisya, panagutin ang mga nagpabaya, nanakit, pumatay, nagnakaw ng buhay, trabaho, kinabukasan, at mga nagsamantala. Maliit lang ang boses ko, kaya't ginagamit ko ito para bigyan ang mga tulad ni Senator Laila de Lima na tinanggalan ng boses na marinig at hindi makalimutan. Umaasa ako na sa mga ginagawa kong pagbabasa ng mga tula at panulat, dumadagdag ako sa boses ng Pilipinong tumututol, lumalaban at hindi mananahimik. Mga kapwa ko Pilipina, ina, manggagawa, masaya ako na nakasama ako sa pagsasamang ito. Marami pala tayo. Sa pandemic na ito, hindi malayong maisip na paisa-isa lang tayo, pero dahil sa mga ganitong pagtitipon, nabibigyan tayo ng pag-asa at lakas ng loob. Mas marami, mas malakas ang boses, mas malakas ang puwersa. Mabuhay kayong bumubuo ng isang bayan. Mabuhay ang kababaihan sa ating lipunan. Mabuhay tayo mga Pilipino. Ako si Angel Aquino. Maraming salamat po.
Our next speaker is also a lead convener of Isambayan. Isa ito sa mga unang binakbakan ng administrasyon at pilit na panaalis sa pwesto bilang ombudsman kahit hindi pa tapos ang termino dahil ang beses itong hindi umayon sa Malacanang, pero hindi siya natinag. And here to talk about the work of Isambayan, please welcome former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales.
labanan, ligaw. Toto'y makinig ka, huwag nang magpagabi. Baka pagkamalan pa tumandusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y alam mo ba kung ano ang punot dulo ng di matapos-tapos na kaguluhang ito? Hindi pula't dilaw ang tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lubog sa kailangan.
Ngayon, sabi niya, sawa na kayo.
Sa gobyernong inutil at korap.
Ginagawa na lang nila lahat ng gusto nilang gawin.
Sa mga leaders that only act out of self-interest, are greedy, at hindi talaga nila priority yung Filipino people.
Sabi niyo sawa na kayo sa mga leader at pinuno na walang kwenta, sa mga pangako ng awit sa patawa.
Isang taon na lang, election ulit sa May 9.
Kapag hindi bumoto ang mga bata at may paninindigan,
Kurakot na naman ang makakalan.
Naparehistro na at manindigan.
Boto mo, boses mo.
Boto mo, boses mo. Spread the word. Let's all register and let's all be ready to vote next year. Have a good day.
Sabi niyo, sawa na kayo.
Sawa na sa mga pangako tuluyang napapako.
Sawa na kayo sa kawalan ng pagbabago.
Sa gobyerno ng hindi korap.
Sa puro kalpa, sa sablay, sa mga walang sense na pagpatay.
Eksaktong isang taon na lang, eleksyon na naman sa May 9.
Kapag hindi bumoto ang mga kabataan at may panindigan,
Puro mga sakit at mapagsamantala na naman ang mananalo.
Magparehistro at manindigan.
Boto mo
Ang mga magbabago.
Sa bayan.
Sabi niyo, sawa na kayo.
sa mga leader na inutil at walang kwenta.
Sa mga pangako na nauwi na lang sa patawa. Yung bang lahat ng pangako nila ginagawa na ng joke?
Isang taon na lang, eleksyon na naman sa May 9.
Kapag hindi bumoto ang mga bata at may paninindigan,
Babalik
at babalik din ang mga kawan.
Magparehistro at manindigan.
Boto mo ang magbabago sa bayan.
Our next speaker is also a lead convener of 1Sambayan. Isa ito sa mga unang binakbakan ng administrasyon at pilit na panaalis sa pwesto bilang ombudsman kahit hindi pa tapos ang termino dahil ang beses itong hindi umayon sa Malacanang, pero hindi siya natinag. And here to talk about the work of 1Sambayan, please welcome former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales.
A pleasant morning. Today we're celebrating our 123rd year of independence, the indelible badge of a proud nation. Its true spirit entails building a just, orderly, and peaceful society and establishing a government that promotes the common good, salus populi, is supremo lex, and the development of the nation's patrimony. We are witnesses, however, to the threats to our independence, from the defeatist stand on the conflicts involving our territory and exclusive economic zone to the indolence, apathy, inhumanity, immorality, intolerance, and greed of some of those in power. We are also witnesses, however, to the majority of our people suffering in silence over these threats for fear of reprisal from the powers of government. It is in this light that 1Sambayan has been conducting a series of talakayan ng bayan among different sectors to elicit from them the issues, the challenges, the concerns they are facing, and to listen to their recommendations to address them, which we hope the candidates we will be choosing for next year's elections will consider in crafting their platform of government.
In that light, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to share the results of our first consultation with public sector workers. Tayong mga dati naglilingkod sa pamahalaan, silang mga kasalukuyang nasa loob ng pamahalaan. Tayo yung naiipit sa kadalasan sa mga maling patakaran. Nasaksihan natin ang kawalan ng paggalang sa mga batas at sa mga nakatakdang proseso. Napapanahon nga, hingin natin ang paggalang at pagkilala sa independensya ng mga oversight institutions, igalang at palakasin ang mga institusyong bumabalanse sa kapangyarihan ng ehekutibo upang maiwasan ang pang-abuso sa kapangyarihan. Higit sa lahat, tabanan ng katiwalian, suriin ng pagkakautang at maanumalyang kontrata na pinasok ng kasalukuyang pamahalaan. Mga ka-1Sambayan, halina at pakinggan natin ang iba't ibang hamon at panawagan ng pagkilos mula sa iba't ibang sektor.
Sa ilalim ng pamahalang pabaya, mga nanay ang magtataya.
Sa mga matatanda at may kapansanan, asa ka pa sa gobyerno walang pakialamang.
Kung gobyerno ay pakyut lamang, anong ilalaman sa kumakalam na tiyan? Halina, makinig at maki-1Sambayan.
Magbuhos ng rekurso ang ating pamahalaan sa pagsuporta at pagpapaunlad sa kanayunan, lalo na sa pagtataguyod ng kakayanan ng local producers, lumikha ng mga programa sa trabahong regular, nakabubuhay na sahod, ayudang sapat, pagpapalawak ng suporta sa care and domestic work. Itaguyod ang karapatan ng kababaihan sa produksyon gaya ng pagsasabatas ng mga pulisiya at programa na magwawakas sa pang-aabuso at komodipikasyon sa amin bilang babae.
Hinihingi nito ang komprehensibong pang-ekonomiyang plano, sangkot ang trabaho, pangangalaga sa bata at pangkaisipang kalusugan. Ipatupad ang ating mga ipinaglabang mga batas upang magsilbi sa atin. Tiyakin ang mga komprehensibong programang nakasentro sa mga survivor ng karahasan.
Maraming Pilipino ang nagkakasakit, ngunit kulang ang kapasidad natin para tugunan ito. Ang mga healthcare workers natin overworked, underpaid, at hindi nakukuha ang narapat na benepisyo. Ang mga kakulangan sa contact tracing, testing, at pagpapabakuna ay nahabol natin habang sinisinsin natin ang mga polisiya at ang kabuuang disenyo ng ating health system. Ito ang dapat sinusolusyonan ng ating mga leader. Sana mabigyan din ito para matamo natin ang ganap na kaginhawaan para sa lahat.
Nakikiisa ang mga katutubong mamamayan sa adhikain ng sambayan na mapagkaisa ang iba't ibang demokratikong kursa at oposisyon.
Kasama kaming mga kabataan, magsasaka, manggagawa,
para sa wasto at matinong pamamahala. Madugo ang pandarahas sa mga katutubo, kasabay ng pagsira, pag-agaw at pandarambong sa aming lupaing ninuno at kalikasan. No to another 6 years of oppression and injustice against indigenous peoples.
Sapat na pondo, disente, ligtas at pangmasang pabahay.
maayos na serbisyong pangkalusugan,
pagkilala sa seguridad sa trabaho at karapatang pantao.
Ang susunod na presidente ay kinakailangang agarang tugunan ang dalawang isyu na aming kinakaharap. Unang-una syempre ay ang usapin ng ligtas na balik eskwela na kinakailangan ang isang medikal na tugon, medikal na solusyon sa pandemya para makabalik ang mga estudyante sa kanilang paaralan. At ang pangalawa ay ang pakikiisa ng susunod na presidente sa laban ng lahat ng mga estudyante sa campus militarization.
Ang panawagan ng Isang Bayan Youth, ensure the right to free, quality, and accessible education for all, and the safe reopening of schools, protect and conserve our environment and natural resources, and end social inequality, uphold democracy.
Bigas at karapatan sa at katarungan, kalusugan at kasarinlan, tahanan at kalayaan, sigaw ng kababaihan, pang-aapi ay wakasan, doble ang pagkaalipin sa lipunan, ang kiling ng batas sa atin ay laban. Bigas at karapatan sa at katarungan, bigas at karapatan sa at katarungan, kalusugan at kasarinlan.
We now go on to the main part of our program, ang pagkikilala sa ating mga pambato. But before we do, let us hear from another lead convener as he explains to us the requirements of Isang Bayan for its nominees. Sino?
Good afternoon po. You have heard the selection criteria that was set for the search of the one candidate who can give us the good governance that we deserve. It's not only the so-called winnability that's under consideration. Character, capability, and track record are also well considered. You have as well listened to the problems and urgent concerns that Filipinos are hoping the next leader will address. Some have offered solutions that they hope can be adopted as part of the next administration's priorities. Consultations with different sectors are ongoing. We have heard from the youth, women, farmers, OFWs, the health experts, and many others. They are eager to participate in this drive for national recovery. So the task at hand is to reveal the list of men and women who agreed to be part of the field of nominees. They have participated in dialogues with Isang Bayan, and all have agreed to unite under one presidential candidate. From these choices, Isang Bayan, the coalition members, and eventually the public can have a say on who they believe will usher in the changes they hope for. Here po are the possible Isang Bayan candidates for President and Vice President in the May 2022 elections. Vice President Lenny Robredo, Senator Sonny Trillanes, Senator Grace Poe, Brother Eddie Villanueva, Attorney Chel Diokno, Congresswoman Vilma Santos Recto. There may still be additions, but for now, let us listen to what the candidates have said.
Ako si Lenny Robredo at naniniwala ako, ang tugon sa mga suliranin natin hindi iisa kundi bawat isa. Unang hakbang ang pagkilala sa ugat ng mga suliranin nito. Maraming pangangailangang di napupunan. Maraming pangarap na parang hindi matupad-tupad. Matagal nang frustrated ang Pilipino. At ginagamit ng iba ang frustration na ito para pagwatak-watakin tayo. para ibiin ang pagkakaiba natin kaysa sa mga bagay na nagbibigay sa atin. Ibig sabihin, nasa bayanihan ang susi ng anumang tugon. Hindi lang sa pagbibigis kasama ang mga taong tugma ang paniniwala sa atin, pero sa pagbubukas, pakikinig at pag-unawa sa pinanggagalingan ng lahat. Kabilang na ang mga taong salungat sa mga paniniwala ito. Nakikiisa ako sa panawagang magkaisa, sabay ng pakiusap. Hindi pwedeng tayo-tayo lang ang mag-uusap. Hindi pwedeng tayo-tayo lang din ang magkakaisa. Kung hindi tayo lilikha ng espasyo sa puso natin para sa iba, kung hindi natin kikilalanin na magkakahanay ang adhikain ng bawat Pilipino, mananatiling mailap ang mga adhikain ito. Iisang bayan pa rin tayo. At walang ibang makalulutas ng ating mga suliranin, kundi ang nagkakaisang tayo.
Mga kababayan, isang matagumpay at makasaysayang araw ng kalayaan. Sa paggunita po natin ng ating ika-123 taong kasarilan, salubungin po natin ang panibagong yugto sa ating kasaysayan. Isang yugtong bubuuin ng nagkakaisang layunin at sama-samang pagkilos ng mga Pilipinong may tunay na pagmamahal sa Diyos at bayan. May malaking pag-asa ang bayang Pilipinas kung tayo'y magkakaisa at itataguyod natin ang pamumunong nakabatay sa integridad at moralidad, kakayahan at karanasan, wasto at may prinsipyong pamumuno sa ating inang bayan. Magagawa lang natin ito kung tayong lahat ay magkakaisa at magtutulong-tulong tungo sa muling pagbangon ng ating isang bayan. Maraming salamat po at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoon. God bless you all and God bless the Philippines.
Ang 2022 elections ay ang pinaka-importanting yugto sa kasaysayan ng ating demokrasya simula ng 1986. Dito nakasalalay ang survival ng ating bansa. Kaya napakahalaga na manalo ang mga pro-democracy forces. At kami ay naniniwala na ang tanging behikulo para sa tagumpay nito ay ang 1Sambayan coalition. Kaya ako at ang Magdalo Group ay buong loob na nagpapasailalim sa selection process ng 1Sambayan. At kami ay naniniwala at nagtitiwala sa wisdom ng mga conveners ng 1Sambayan na sila ay makakapili at makabuo ng slate ng mga kandidato na karapat-dapat mamuno sa ating bansa.
A list of Senate candidates will be revealed soon. We will keep you updated on developments. Maraming salamat po.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Sila po ang ating nominees for President and Vice President. Nakita niyo na ba ang ating pambato sa kanila? Exciting, di ba? O excited na ba kayo? Ako rin. At sabi nga ng susunod na himig, sana pagkatapos ng bilangan, ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Panahon na ng pagpili, panahon na ng halalan.
Madami namang kandidato, madaming mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang forma at salita. Sino o sino kaya? At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kayang mananalo?
pagnanais ng taong umunlad sa madaling panahon. Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala. Sana naman, sana siya'y tumira tapat sa bansa.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la. Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Ay, ayan, we're live na. Pakipuso na lang mga sis. Ang dami nating viewers. And you are all welcome sa ating live selling in celebration of our Independence Day. Hoy, meron akong iba bargain ha. Murang-mura lang to. You will love this. Ito ang Philippine Islands on the West Philippine Sea. O, diba? Mayaman like me. Mayaman sa seafoods. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay lover ng maki or sushi, kamay-kamay emoji na sa comment section. Ito ang code, ha? Mine West Philippine Sea. Ay, nako, hindi lang ito isdaan. Mayaman din ito sa marine biodiversity. O, diba? Tulad nito, ay check ninyo. Ano nangyayari dyan? Food source, stability. Yes, kaya naman sabi ng mga kumari ko, ha, sa the Netherlands, sa The Hague. Nako, this is an exclusive economic zone. Kaya tayong may karapatan kung sino pwedeng mangisda dyan. Kung sino mga pwedeng dumaan dyan. Because that is a trade route dati pa. Kaya nako, nagmamakaawa ko sa inyo. Please, pakimine nyo na ang West Philippine Sea. Makaawa ko sa inyo, mga Pilipino. Atin ito, Mine West Philippine Sea. It's ours po. It's ours.
Para ipaliwanag naman ang dahilan kung bakit nabuo ang isang bayan, let us all welcome retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. A pleasant afternoon to everyone. We in the 1Sambayan, with your cooperation and support, will search for candidates for President, Vice President, and for the Senate in the May 2022 elections who have integrity, competence, patriotism, and a vision for our country. We will search for national leaders who will revive our national economy, generate employment, dispense social justice to the poor, defend our sovereign territory and sovereign rights against foreign invasion, and provide a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. We in the Isambayan represent a broad cross-section of Philippine society. We have representatives from the urban poor, fisher folk, farmers, factory workers, women folk, students and the youth, retired military personnel, retired government personnel, businessmen, teachers and professors, professionals, and people from other sectors of Philippine society. We in the Isambayan constitute a coalition of the democratic forces in the country. We have political parties spanning the entire political spectrum. We have NGOs representing all sectors of Philippine society. We have come together as Isambayan because we believe that we must forge a common slate in the May 2022 national elections to put an end to the failures of the Duterte administration. The President has publicly admitted in October 2020 that corruption has become worse under his administration. The President has also publicly admitted in April 2019 that his war on drugs is a failure. The President has further publicly admitted in July 2019 that he is inutile in defending the West Philippine Sea against Chinese invasion. We in the Isambayan will choose candidates for national positions who will put an end to all these publicly admitted and glaring failures of the Duterte administration. We in the Isambayan, with your cooperation and support, will choose candidates who will put an end to the mismanagement of the economy, which has suffered the worst contraction in GDP since 1945, resulting in the closure of more than 50% of small and medium-scale enterprises and the loss of jobs by more than 5 million Filipinos. We will choose candidates who will put an end to the hunger experienced by 60% of Filipinos, who will put an end to the mismanagement of our public health services in addressing the pandemic, who will put an end to the over 25,000 extrajudicial killings of poor and defenseless Filipinos in the war on drugs, and who will put an end to the shameless and cowardly refusal to defend our sovereignty and sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. We in the Isambayan will unify the democratic forces in the country to bring good governance to the Filipino people. It is good governance that will lift the Filipino people from poverty. It is good governance that will bring economic development to the country and prosperity to the Filipino people. It is good governance that will restore the pride and dignity of the Filipino people. With your cooperation and support, together we will revive, restore, and develop our country, bring peace and prosperity to our people, so that we can all be proud and stand tall again as Filipinos, as isang bayan. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you so much, Justice Carpio. And with that, dadako na po tayo sa next part of our program, a word from our distinguished reactors. Our first reactor is a multi-awarded journalist who, without fear, exercises her right as a member of the Fourth Estate and understands that the people have the right to know kung ano ang nangyayari sa kanilang kapaligiran at bansa. Our second reactor is a lawyer, educator, and environmental policy expert. A former Undersecretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, Executive Director of Manila Observatory, and Dean of the Ateneo School of Government, a member of the academe and currently teaches law, governance, and philosophy in numerous universities. And the third reactor is a distinguished economist, political analyst, and columnist from Philippine Star. Let us all welcome Rappers Maria Ressa, Attorney Tony Lavinia, and Andrew Masigan. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Ms. Maria Ressa, would you like to go ahead po?
Yes, sure. I mean, it's great to hear the values that are behind Isang Bayan. But I have a few questions, if it's okay. A lot of it is, I guess, as a reaction, I'll just point out the key things. It's also fantastic to get the list of people, but it would be great to get a lot more about what are the key focus points that Isang Bayan is looking at. Justice Carpio laid out some general ones, but the dichotomy, for example, the false equivalence of opening up the economy versus health issues, right? Or the West Philippine Sea, of course, right? But beyond that, health, education, all of these things that are there. And then beyond this choice is what will Isang Bayan do after that? I think the plus side is, I think this is a first. So congratulations to the conveners of Isang Bayan. This is the first time that party politics moves forward in a post-Marcos world in a far more transparent manner. And so I do hope that everyone from every walk of life and every political position in the Philippines will join, because the more of us are on board, the better it will be. So what will you do after? And then in terms of the real focus in terms of choosing the candidates, will you be putting priorities on specific portions of policy?
Hello?
Ako na?
Yes po, attorney. Your
Thank
turn
you,
po.
Ria. Mainit na pagbati sa inyong lahat sa hapon na ito, sa araw na ito, ng araw ng ating kalayaan. Nung college student pa ako, ay tinuruan ako ng aking history teacher, si Professor Vince Rafael. Ginamit niya yung libro ni Ray Ileto na Passion at Revolution, na magkakaiba yung independensya at kalayaan. At yung ating Independence Day, mas independensya yun kaysa kalayaan, kasi naging independent tayo sa Amerika, sa Spanya muna, pagkatapos later on sa Amerika. Pero kahit ngayon, alam natin na nanganganib yung ating independensya. Nandyan yung China, nandyan pa rin yung Estados Unidos. At higit sa lahat, hindi pa rin tayo malaya sa maraming mga bagay sa ating lipunan. Hindi tayo malaya sa kamangmangan, hindi tayo malaya sa pagkawalang kapantay ng ating lipunan, hindi tayo malaya sa di makatarungan na lipunan, sa kahirapan, hindi tayo malaya sa maraming bagay. Kaya napakahalaga yung ginagawa ng Isang Bayan na proseso, mahalaga at napakalaki yung taya dito. The stakes are very high, no? Kaya nagpapasalamat ako sa trabaho ng conveners at lahat ng staff at membro na sumali ng Sambayan sa buong mundo. Gusto ko nga batiin lalo na yung mga wala sa Manila, yung mga nasa Mindanao, taga Mindanao din po ako, taga Cagayan de Oro, sa Visayas, sa iba't ibang lugar ng Luzon, lalo sa mga kabundukan natin, at sa coastal areas natin, mga fisher folk at lahat na lalo na din mga katutubo, dahil sila ay napakalaki din ng kanilang taya dito sa eleksyon na ito. Gusto ko lang mag-comment sa isang proseso na ginagawa ng Sambayan na naging kasali ako, kasi sa akin yun ang pinakamaganda. Nabanggit din niya ni Maria Ressa na for the first time para meron tayong issue-based na coalition na ginagawa, no? Nakasali na ako sa ilang mga talakayan, nabanggit din niya ni paring Bert kanina. Nakasali ako doon sa usaping kapayapaan, peace process. Nakasali ako sa usaping kalikasan, environment and climate. At sumali din ako, nakinig ako, hindi ko nagsalita, pero nakinig ako doon sa yung isang araw lang, usaping katutubo, indigenous people's rights na napakahalaga sa akin dahil isa sa malaking trabaho ko ngayon ay yung pagtulong ng mga lumad schools na talagang sinusubukan durugin ng administrasyong Duterte. Nire-red tag, kina-crash, lahat na lang tinatapon sa kanila, pero hanggang ngayon ay tumatayo pa rin, nakikilaban, nananalo naman kami lahat sa lahat ng mga korte, pero ganoon pa rin ang ginagawa ng gobyerno. At marami pang ibang issue na sa tingin ko tinatalakay, yung corruption, of course yung West Philippine Sea, napakahalaga na tama ang posisyon ng ating mga kandidato dito. Kung ano yung agenda natin sa mga magsasaka, sa manggagawa, napakahalaga yon. And sa higit sa lahat, at masaya din ako sa sambayan na nandyan yung malaking presence ng youth, no? Maraming salamat na nandito kayo sa usaping ito at nandito kayo sa organisasyon ito ng ano, no, yung in a mass way, yung marami kayong nandito. I think na kung meron tayong pag-asa na manalo, ay kung tama yung ating plataforma, tama yung ating mga issues at tanggapin yun ng ating mga kandidato. I don't believe in populist leaders, but I believe in popular ideas. Popular, ibig sabihin, pro-people ideas. Ni minsan pa tayo nagkaroon ng kandidato, wala pa tayong kandidato sa tingin ko na wala pa tayong presidente na tunay na nagsaside sa batayang sektor, halimbawa, no? Sometimes meron ka mga presidente na magagawa ng mabuti dito o dyan, pero yung kabuuhan talaga, dahil sa plataforma nila wala naman. Napakahalaga na ilabas yung plataforma ng maaga. Sa tingin ko, condition dapat din yon ng sambayan na yung presidential candidate at VP candidate at senatorial candidates ay tanggapin yung mga lalabas na plataforma dun sa mga talakayang ginagawa ng sambayan. Otherwise, parang useless, parang token lang yung ating consultations, di ba? Pangalawa, gusto ko rin mag-comment dun sa proseso ng pagpili ng kandidato. I mean, maganda yung mga katangian at maganda naman yung steps. Sa tingin ko may isang missing aspect dito. Kahit paano, sa tingin ko minability, importante din yon i-assess. At sa tingin ko baka maganda na meron tayong customized polling gagawin dito. I mean, using, right now, hindi tayo makaka-rely for strategy dun sa usual na polling na ginagawa ng mga traditional na polling organizations. Mukha nga yung SWS, hindi sila naglalabas ng mga ratings na ngayon. I mean, ewan ko kung later in the future lalabas sila. Yung nandiyan naman yung Pulse Asia. By the way, I believe in the methodologies of those. No? Kasi talaga naman pinag-aaralan ko yon at nakita ko naman na generally those are global standards ang sinusunod nila. But hindi siya pwede yung ganong klaseng polling lang for our candidates. Kailangan customized. Saan ba tayo weak? Bakit ba yung ilang sa ating mga kandidato ay gaano kagaling sila, bakit ang baba pa rin nila, bakit merong anong effectivity ng trolls, paano kalabanin yon? You need scientific surveys also for that. Hindi kaya yan ng internet polling lang. Otherwise, pupunta tayo sa eleksyon na bulag, no? We go to the elections blind. So yun lang yung dagdag ko dun sa proseso that between now and October, kasi naman, agree din ako yung paring Bert, dahan-dahan lang, hindi naman kailangan right away. Hindi naman kailangan right away kasi we really have until October or at least September man lang to proclaim our candidates and to proclaim our support. Diba? So sana magkaroon tayo ng scientificong proseso din ng pag-intindi ng weaknesses, ng opportunities, at anong pwedeng gawing campaign strategy to make those win, no? Kasi kahit napakaganda yung agenda natin, kung yung personalities naman, di ba, for some reason or another hindi natin siya mauurong, may ceiling siya ng support, baka sayang lang din yung effort. So I think importante yung scientific process for doing that, no? Comment din, panghuli na ito before my final points. Yung process of unifying is very important, no? And it's a question actually I want to address yung organizers. napansin ko yung sa chat, bibo ang chat kung sa Bisaya pa. Nakakaaliw yung chat. Pero para siyang di ba? Para siyang mga chat ng mga dyaryo, ng Rappler noon na ang daming minsan may insultuhan pa yung ganyan, di ba? Very important in a unifying process. Lalo na yung mga groups dito, mga grupo dito, organized forces nandito dito na magkaibang ideolohiya, magkaibang kasaysayan, may mga personalities pa na nag-aaway-away noon. Very important sa atin yung respect for each other, di ba? Very important. Please avoid toxic statements against fellow candidates. No, nakita ko na yan. Na dun, at least within our ranks, no, please avoid that, di ba? And sana yung conveners call them out pag anything that is destructive of the unity has to be called out. Tawagin na kaagad ngayon, bawal yon. Kasi magkakawatak-watak tayo kung mag-aaway-away tayo ngayon pa man, di ba? In fact, I will extend that to the bigger picture. Kasi mukhang lumalabas na madaming kandidato, di ba? Baka umabot tayo ng 10 kandidato. Di ba? Baka nga 2 Duterte pa at sa 2 ticket pa, di ba? Ilan sa Mindanao, baka 2, 3 sa Mindanao tatakbo, di ba? Merong ibang senador na tatakbo, alam natin, nagsabi na sila this week, no? Ako wini-welcome ko yon actually, wini-welcome ko, hindi ko inaano kasi ganyan naman talaga sistema natin. Wala naman tayong runoff election at lahat. So wini-welcome ko na maraming mga kandidato. And I have the very simple political rule, di ba? Di ba? The enemy of your enemy is actually your ally, di ba? So kailangan tingnan natin mabuti. Baka maganda rin na hindi natin necessarily i-pull down yung ibang mga kandidato. Kasi baka nakakatulong sa atin yon. Sa tingin ko yung 2016, a lot of it was about kaya nanalo si Duterte because the other candidates ran negative campaigns and pulled each other down instead of positive campaigns. So importante sa tingin ko yung positive campaigns as a big picture sa lahat ng ito, malaking silbi yun ng bayan. Of course, sa isang bayan, ang tanong ko is, paano tayo mag-shift to campaign mode at some point, di ba? Yun siguro ang gusto ko din masagot ng mga conveners. When and how at some point we will shift to campaign mode. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Now po, Sir Andrew, if you please. You're on mute po. There
you go.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. First of all, thank you for having me here as a reactor. My reaction comes in 2 points. The first one in the form of a question, and the second one in the form of an insight. But before that, allow me to express my gratitude and my congratulations to the Board of Conveners of Isambayan, because truly, Isambayan is fast becoming the symbol and the unifying party or vehicle for the opposition. And at this time when we face an enemy with formidable resources, and as a matter of fact, the resources of the entire government, we really have to be united. So to the Board of Conveners, my kudos and my gratitude. Okay, having said that, as a voter, what matters to me is the reform agenda of the candidates. I would like to know what their stand is with regards to the West Philippine Sea, with regards to economic cha-cha, with regards to political reform and the enactment of the anti-dynasty law, for instance, or their stand on federalism. So my first reaction is actually a question, and will Isambayan be imposing its reform agenda on the candidates, or will Isambayan simply be adopting the policy positions of the candidates? I would really like to know that as a voter. Now, another thing, let me segue now to another point that I'd like to make. See, I don't know if many people know, but as you introduced me earlier, yes, I am an economist, and I've been trained to look at data and information that no one can refute. And for that, I rely on statistics. Now, I just want to provide an insight to all our viewers out there, because it's been said that the Duterte administration was instrumental in ushering in a new age of economic revival, has made the country stronger fundamentally with regards to the economy, as evidenced by exports, growth, etc., etc. Now, I'm here I'm here to say that based on the data, that is not the case. So please let us not believe that the Duterte administration did well for the economy. And I can prove it by numbers, okay? The statistics show that the economy and all the development indices actually peaked in 2017. So this was the, shall we say, the remnants of good governance back in the Aquino administration. Growth in 2016 was our peak, and that we clocked in a growth of 7.1%. And it has been slowly declining even before the pandemic. It fell off the cliff during the pandemic, but before that, yung kumbaga yung momentum niya bumabagal na, okay? And the same is true for foreign direct investments, was at its peak in 2017 and decelerated after. Now, I think I cannot not talk about the economy without mentioning the trade deficit, because this is a time bomb that we are not really talking about, but it's something that we must confront. Okay, when in the height of the Aquino, how should we say, good governance of the Aquino administration, when investments were coming in, our trade deficit was at a measly, and I say measly, 11.5 billion. In other words, the dollars going out versus the dollars going in, ang deficit lang was 11.5 billion, okay? Fast forward, pre-pandemic, 2019, and the trade deficit had ballooned to 46.3 billion. This is not as an economist, this is not comfortable for me, okay? And it gives credence to another fundamental problem, that during the Duterte administration, they fueled growth through spending, not through production. At para sa akin, that is very, very alarming, okay? That's very alarming because we cannot import all our needs without exporting the corresponding amount. We will face a currency crisis if we go down this road. So I just wanted to share that to the whole, to all our viewers, kasi nga niyayabang ng Duterte administration na they have done well by the economy, but that is really not the case, and the numbers prove it. And my last point is this: we're all governed. The community of nations are governed by development indices. In other words, all of us are trying to climb the different levels of development indices. And even here, makikita nyo talaga na nag-peak tayo in 2017 and it's been downhill ever since. And I'll name the development indices. One is the World Economic Forum Competitiveness Index. We've tumbled significantly. I have the numbers there. You can message me later on. But for the interest of time, let me just tell you the indices where bumagsak ang Pilipinas, no? So, World Economic Forum Competitiveness Index, which is the parang motherhood, strength of the economy. We've tumbled in ease in doing business tremendously in 2018, pero naka-recover naman ng konti in 2019. We've tumbled in corruption perception massively. We've tumbled in rule of law and justice system. We've fallen in global innovation index. We've fallen in global peace and order. We've fallen in economic freedom. We've plunged in information technology, and we've plunged in gender equality. So ano ba yan? Lahat na lang ng importanteng development index, imbes na umabante tayo, we're going backwards. And this is what really compelled me to come out as an opposition, because really prior to this, I was, let's just say, I was ambivalent observer, giving this administration a chance. Why not, right? We're all Filipinos, no? But when I saw these things happening, it was too glaring to ignore. And indeed, for the economic data that's coming out, we really need change, because if not, uh, I don't think the country can take another 6 years of a spending economy and not a production economy. It will lead to a currency crisis, and that's the last thing we need at this moment, especially that our economy is on its knees following a double dip recession. So ayun lang po ang aking reaction for now, and I'm happy to take questions later on. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much for your reactions, Ms. Maria Ressa, Sir. And hello, Sir. There. Hello. Okay, sorry, my internet is a little bit off at the moment. But yeah, before we move on to the question and answer portion, I'd like to start with a question posed by Ms. Maria Ressa earlier. Ms. Maria, if you could just your question first.
First, let me unmute myself. So thank you. And it's great to hear the reactions of both Tony and Andrew. I mean, just to add the one point to Tony, which is really part of what's changed our character as a nation, our values, has been technology. And the fact that social media, which here we are, right? We're being live streamed on Facebook as well as, Zoom. Just look at the two different business models. Zoom, each of us pays for it and we're not being manipulated. Facebook has wider reach, and yet everything that you put into Facebook, everything you post gets put into machine learning, puts it together into a model and knows you better than you know yourself, and you wind up getting insidiously manipulated. Well, we have an administration that has used this. Now we have, Andrew's inspired me to say we have the data, and we've had the data since 2016. And in order to beat these disinformation networks, what we in Rappler called the propaganda machine in 2016, will require real civic engagement, real values. So technology is both a weapon and a tool to manipulate us. It is also something that Sambayan is going to have to deal with. I asked two questions, and the first question was really about, so much of what Sambayan has done is focused on a mass-based voter, right? Getting people together, getting groups together. But power and money those who have power and money have largely stayed quiet. And the death by 1,000 cuts of our democracy, of our institutions, what we have seen happen in the past 5 years, happened because too many of those who have power and money have stayed quiet. And I've stated over and over that silence is complicity. I think the question is, how are you going to harness that? How will you make those who feel they have too much to lose, whereas our poor are losing their lives, but those who are protective of what they have, how do you get them on board? And then the second one was, what will Sambayan do after choosing the candidates? And that piggybacks off of Andrew's question, which is, are you going to take the policies of the candidates, or will you help shape the policies of the candidates? Justice Carpio. And thank you, first of all, to all the conveners. One more time, I will say that because it takes courage to step up during these times.
Ms. Maria, so if you would you like to address this question to Justice Carpio, if that's okay? Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Justice Carpio, if you could, the question is, how will you make those who feel that they have too much to lose come on board, and what will Sambayan do after choosing the candidates? There po.
Thank you, Maria, for that question. On your second question, what will Sambayan do after choosing the candidates? Well, we will take part in the campaign. Of course, the candidates belong to their own political parties. They will have their own political machineries. but we will put up a political machinery for Isambayan to campaign for the entire uh, uh, election slate of the Isambayan, from president to the Senate. So we will have our own political machinery, separate from the political machineries of the political parties that compose the Isambayan. On the platform, uh, we have our own ideas how this country should move forward. We have taken a position on the West Philippine Sea on extrajudicial killings, and we will come out with our position on opening the economy. But we will jointly formulate a final platform together with the candidates, because we have to take into account their positions also. So it will be give and take. We'll have to come out with a common platform after we have chosen them. But we will have our own. We have already our own positions. And of course, we'll have to agree on a unified platform on this. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Carpio.
Excuse me.
Can I follow up? Just the first question. Yes, that's that's interesting.
There's a second question. Let me answer. On the funding, you're saying that the power and money are with other people. From what I know, because I was part of the political campaign machinery of former President Ramos in 1992, if you have a viable candidate, the big political donors will go to you. And right now, they're not showing their support because we don't have our candidates yet. And if we have a viable candidate, that's when they will show their support. In fact, from what I gather, they're just waiting for us to come out with a viable candidate, because they also they agree with us that we cannot allow another 6 years of the Duterte administration. You have big companies losing their franchises. Manila Water, their contracts, their franchises were just cut off. They won in the arbitration, international arbitration, and they were told you don't get anything, and we will revise your franchise and take it or leave it. That's, businessmen put money based on the agreement with the government that this is the contract, this is the franchise. And the government will just say later on, after they've invested so much, sorry, we're changing everything. That is what businessmen want to avoid. They cannot operate under that condition. They will leave the country if you continue with that. And that's why investments have been going down, because they're worried that their contracts will not be honored. And that's why we will address this issue. We will ensure that due process is followed, because that's in the Constitution. What has happened here is that the president just canceled the franchises of big companies that have invested billions of dollars. And that's a no-no for investors. They will avoid the Philippines if we do not correct this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Justice Carpio. Up next, Attorney Lavinia, if you could just repeat the question that you said earlier regarding how, if I'm not mistaken, how will Isambayan transition into campaign mode? Correct po?
Yes po. That's the last question. But gusto ko rin sana ma-address yung the issue of winnability, di ba? I know, we're always saying naman na we have to have a good candidate with all the characteristics we want, but we also want that candidate obviously to be winnable, di ba? And it's not just winnable in the sense na ngayon winnable ba o hindi, but can we make that candidate winnable? And sa tingin ko, kailangan ng scientific process to determine that. Hindi pwedeng sentimento lang. Hindi pwedeng, marami din sa chat, di ba, I want this, I want that, only this candidate, only that candidate. I really urge everyone to abandon that mentality na only one candidate lang ang pwede. Di ba? At mananalo tayo sa negative campaign against the Duterte candidates. No? Hindi yan mangyayari. So importante, I think, na kung may choices tayo, importante na tanungin natin, how can we make this candidate win, di ba? And that's a scientific process. Hindi yan kuro-kuro, hindi yan instinct. So I was asking if you have to spend 100 million, 500 million, 1 billion, I don't know what it takes now to spend for a presidential campaign. I think 10 million upfront for a really good survey na customized would be very helpful. So yun lang, I wanted a reaction to that. And also then, actually nasagot na ni Justice Carpio yung pag-shift, no? So I'm okay now with that question kasi nasagot na ni Justice Carpio. But I'd like to know what the scientific how scientific polling and campaigning will enter into the picture, lalo in making the decision kung sino yung ating candidate. I'm willing to support. I've said from the very beginning, if the process is right and we came out the right decisions, I'm willing to support, go all the way. No? I'm willing even to lead the campaign work in Mindanao, which will probably be the most difficult. No? Pinakamahirap siguro dito sa kampanyang ito. But I need some scientific assurance na pinag-isipan natin ito. Di ba? Hindi lang siya na parang kasi gusto natin, kasi ito yung it's on our heart, di ba? I think our minds are also important here as well. Yun lang.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for that question. One of the criteria for choosing the candidate is the capability of the candidate to mount a nationwide campaign to win. That's actually winnability, but we phrased it in another way. It's the capability to mount a nationwide campaign. And another criterion that we're using is we have two kinds of surveys: the online survey, and we commission also traditional surveys of SWS and Pulse Asia, and we are asking the questions like this: what if there are only two candidates, A versus B? Whom would you vote? So we go through all of this: A versus B, A versus C, A versus D. And then we also ask the question, if there are 3 or 4 candidates and other candidates are not actually going to run, and you chose the other candidates that are not running, who is your second choice? So we ask also the second choices, because everything will change. Because you might be the number one in among a list of 7 candidates, but if you remove the bottom 3, and the votes of the bottom 3 could determine the winner. So their second choice is very important. We ask all the second choices, and we do this. So it's scientific, and we're going through this, and we're doing what you have in mind, Tony. So
thank you. That's very good.
We're doing that. Thank you.
Ganda yun po.
Thank you so much po. Sir Andrew, has your question been answered? The one regarding Isambayan imposing or adopting policies. Are you okay na po with that?
Yes, it's been answered. But if I may, I have a follow-up question.
Sige po. Go ahead po.
Yeah. I know that it's loud and clear, no, that Isambayan will reconcile their platform to that of the candidate. But I'd like to make an input, and I think this is worth a grain of thought. Worth something to think about for everybody. And this relates to political reform. And I think the conversation about political reform has to be made at some point or another. And what I'm harping at is there's a serious flaw in the political system of the country. And that is the political elite and the economic elite are one and the same. and this breeds conflict of interest, and this exacerbates rather income inequality, because the political elite are allowed to engage in business, while the economic elite are allowed to engage in politics, both of which are meant to consolidate their wealth and power. And in other countries, like South Korea, for instance, the political elite and the business elite, their interests are never made to intersect. In other words, they're in fact even meant to mitigate one another. And I think that is a big factor that is causing the income inequality gap that's really in proportions that are alarming already in our situation here in the country. And also, I want to raise another important factor, another important consideration with regards to political reform, and that is the enactment of a bill, an anti-dynasty bill. Okay, we know that the 1987 Constitution mandates that there should be an enabling law to prevent political dynasties. But for the last 35 years, this law was never made. Was never enacted. And why should it? Because the very people who have the most to lose from the enactment of an anti-dynasty law are the very people who are mandated or who can enact the law. So we're in a parang na-checkmate tayo dito. So this really, these two areas of political reform are very important to me and to everyone else if we are to move forward in national development. And my question is, does this form part of the agenda of Isambayan? Anyone can answer.
Yes po. To all the conveners po, if anybody would like to answer lang po.
Yeah. Yes. I understand what you're saying, Andrew. In like in South Korea, the prosecution service is independent, and they can investigate politicians and government officials, and that's why you see their presidents being prosecuted and jailed, because the prosecution service is independent. They are not under the control of the president. Our prosecution service is under the control of the president, and the president is a political animal, and that's the big problem. But we have the ombudsman. The Constitution created an ombudsman who is supposed to be like the independent prosecution service in other countries. But again, it depends on who heads the ombudsman. If you have a head like Justice Conchita Carpio Morales, then you have a strong prosecution service against collusion between politicians and economic interests. But we don't always get an independent and fearless ombudsman, and that's a problem. I'm trying to search the solution within the present constitution, and I think we have to appoint somebody who is independent and fearless as the ombudsman, and who can make the prosecution service independent. And then you can prevent this collusion between the politicians and economic interests. That is the solution, short of a constitutional amendment. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Thank you so much, Justice Carpio. Our next question is from Mara Cepeda of Rappler, to be answered po sana by Attorney Howie Calleja. So the question is, you had included Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Senator Nancy Binay among your initial choices for president and vice president nominees. What happened to the talks with them, and why weren't they included in today's list? Did they say no to the coalition? Attorney Howie? Okay. If anybody else from our conveners would like to answer na lang po, if possible po.
Yeah, I can,
Sige po, Justice
we
Carpio.
initially included Senator Binay because we thought that she was a possible candidate for vice president, but she wrote us and said that she is not interested in running for the presidency or vice presidency. So we have removed her name upon her request. Does that answer the question, or is there any other part of it?
The other part po was about Mayor Isko Moreno po as well.
Yes. As for Mayor Isko Moreno, we initially included him because he was also interested. We have talked to him and he said he was interested. But the other day he wrote us saying that he wanted his name taken out of the list of nominees, possible candidates for president. And of course, we respect that. So we have removed his name as a possible candidate for president or vice president upon his own request. And we respect his request. Thank you.
Thank you po. The next question po is also from Mara Cepeda of Rappler. May we know the convener's response to Senator Lacson declining Isambayan's invitation for him to be a presidential nominee? Why extend an invitation to him if he was a proponent of the anti-terror law? The question is open po to be answered by any of our conveners.
I will answer that.
Sige po.
The Sambayan is an inclusive group. We try to put together the democratic forces. We may have differences with Senator Ping Lacson on the anti-terror law, but that will not define our relationship because that issue will be decided by the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court says that the anti-terror law is constitutional, we abide by that. And if the Supreme Court says the anti-terror law is unconstitutional, we expect Senator Lacson to abide by that. So we have a referee who will decide, and both of us will agree to follow the decision of the referee. So that one we can set aside because there's a solution to that issue. But it's up to Senator Lacson to join or not. We cannot force anyone, and we would be happy if they join voluntarily. And if they request that their names be deleted, we have to honor that request. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Carpio. Our next question is from Xavi Gregorio of Philippine Star. His question is, I can't help but notice the chats on Zoom and supporters seem bent on certain candidates over others. How can Isambayan ensure that its nominees will actually unite behind a single ticket and not break away to mount their own candidacies, given that they already have a strong supportive base? This question is open to any of the conveners of Isambayan.
Let me answer that. All the candidates that we've talked to, we asked them if you want to join the process, the selection process of the Isambayan, you have to agree to abide by the decision. If you are not chosen, you have to support the candidate that we choose. And all of them so far have agreed to abide by the decision of the Isambayan, by the conveners. So, because if you do not agree with the decision or you don't intend to follow the decision of the Isambayan, then what's the use of joining us? Our purpose is to unite all the democratic forces to come out with one candidate only, one slate. And the first thing that we ask of any candidate who wants to be considered is, will you abide by the decision of the Isambayan? Thank you.
Thank you po. Our next question is from Karen Lema of Reuters. How does Isambayan plan to narrow its list of candidates and end up with one candidate for VP and president? Can you walk us through the process and what will happen after you have chosen these candidates? Again, open to any of the conveners.
Maybe Howie can, Attorney Calleja can answer that.
There po, Attorney Calleja.
I think naka-exit si...
Yun po.
Nagkaroon ng technical issue yung kay Howie. Can we have other conveners please answer?
Yeah.
Yes, Brother Armin, would you want to answer that?
Father Bert.
Can you
Brother?
repeat the...
The question po again is, how does Isambayan plan to narrow its list of candidates and end up with one candidate for vice president and president? Can you walk us through the process? And what will happen after you have chosen these candidates? Thank you. That's the question.
Ganda ang tanong yun. Hello, narinig ho ba ako?
Yes po, paring Bert. Hello po.
Oo, mahalagang tanong yan at mahirap din sagutin. Unang-una, magandang ipaliwanag na kailangan natin ng mga data. O yun, importante yun. Pero katulad ng piniliwanag kanina, meron tayong 4 na klaseng data. Isa, yung information na galing mismo sa kandidato. Halimbawa, in-interview natin sila, may sasabihin sila eh. Pangalawa, yung galing sa talakayang bayan at saka sa yung online, yung preference, yung online voting. Tapos siguro yung may mga grupo, meron din silang mga analysis katulad ng ibang pwede rin isa-isama to. Pangatlo, yung mga survey at yung mga analysis na ginagawa ng kung sino-sino mga aral at mga position papers. At ang pang-apat, due diligence. Ngayon, pagsasama-samahin yan, at dito merong lilitaw. Baka meron dyan, una-una, dun sa pag-interview sa kanila, baka merong umayaw. Sasabihin nila, naku, pagka ganyan na demand, ayoko na. O baka ganon. O di, may bawas na yun. Bawas na. Pangalawa, yung pag pinagsama-sama ito, imi-mirror din yan sa kanila. Hello, merong issue sa iyo, ganito, ganito. Totoo ba to? At pagka malaki yung issue, pwedeng sila mismo magsabi, ayokong limitaw yung issue na yan, at buti pa, iba na lang piliin. Pero meron naman na, hindi, kaya ko ipaliwanag yan. Tapos, sa bandang huli, pag pinagsama-sama na to at may na-double check na natin, ipipresenta ito, bawat isang kandidato merong parang dossier, isang folder. At pag-aaralan to ng conveners group at to some extent, papaliwanag to doon sa General Assembly, yung mga kaalyadong grupo. Mag-uusap yan at kung magkaroon ng consensus, yun na yun. Kung hindi magkakaroon ng consensus, ipapasa yan sa conveners group. Yung mas kaunti na to, 23. Dito yung pag-uusapan, balitaktakan. At dyan na siguro lilitaw kung sino talaga ang may tamang karakter, pagkatao, merong kakayahan, competence, at merong magandang track record, at handa na rin siyang kumandidato. Meron siyang makinarya na merong lumalaking network ng support groups. Siguro naman, sa kakausap natin ganyan, kaiipon ng mga datos, meron ng lilitaw na mga mas matataas ang score. Pero siyempre, hindi natin matukoy lahat ng pinakamaliliit na na hakbang kasi medyo mag-a-adjust ka rin dun sa galaw ng ibang kandidato. Yan ang mahirap tansyahin. Kailangan din nating pakiramdaman kung ano yung mga external forces, no? So, ang katapos-tapusan, sabi nga ng ibang mga nag-commit dito, sabi nila, we trust the process, we trust the conveners group and the Isambayan as a network. So let it agree and offer the best candidates. Hindi tayo naghanap ng santo o yung walang bahid, wala namang ganun na tao, lahat tayo may sayad, pero yung pinakamabuting mapipili natin sa ganitong sitwasyon.
Thank you so much, paring Bert. Our next question po is a follow-up pa rin po from Ms. Karen Lemma of Reuters. How come Senator Grace, Congresswoman Vilma, and Attorney Chell weren't able to share their messages? Any of the conveners lang po if you'd like to answer.
Hindi yata umabot.
Paring
Nahuli lang yata po.
Okay po.
Mga deadline.
Okay po. Next question po is from TV5. For any of the conveners din po. Have you talked with VP Lenny Robredo, Senator Grace Poe, CBAC Rep. Brother Eddie Villanueva, Attorney Chel Diokna, and Batangas Rep. Vilma Santos Recto, and what are the reactions? Did any one of them actually confirm that they will run for the position? Thank you. There po, any of the conveners lang po.
Brother.
Hi, brother.
Ako na siguro.
Sige po.
Ang maigsing sagot, nakausap naming lahat pag sinabi namin, hindi naman lahat ng conveners, meron kaming small group of conveners na nakikipag-usap isa-isa doon sa mga principal na nabanggit kanina. Ano ang pinag-usapan namin? Ang pwede kong sabihin, kasi meron kaming siyempre confessional seal. Ang napag-usapan namin, pumayag sila na isama yung kanilang pangalan doon sa listahan na ininominate sa isang bayan. Pangalawa, na pumayag din sila na sila ay sasama at papaloob doon sa proseso na sinusulong ng isang bayan. At pangatlo, hiningi namin sa kanila na kung sino yung mapili doon sa mga nasa listahan, kung pwede nilang suportahan at pwede nilang encourage yung kanilang mga supporters na suportahan din. Lahat sila nagsabi na gagawin din nila yon. So, ito yung mga basic na pag-uusap noong sa ating mga nasa listahan. Kasama na diyan yung pag-uusap tungkol syempre doon sa mga issues, no? So yung mga critical issues, meron namang meeting of minds. Siguro yung pagkakaiba ay yung sa paano gagampanan, paano gagawin yung halimbawa sa ekonomiya, sa West Philippine Sea, but in very general terms, yung targets at saka yung key issues na ipinapaglaban ng isang bayan ay pinapanigan din naman nitong mga kandidato na nabanggit. Salamat.
Thank you, Brother Armin. The next question po is for Attorney Howie. How many members do you have right now? How many members and supporters do you envision you will have before the May 2022 elections come? That question is from the viewers po for Attorney Howie.
Yes, Ria, can you see me now?
Yes po, there po.
Yan, okay. Kanina hindi tayo nagkita, but okay, good afternoon to everybody. Ang Isang Bayan, if you look at our Isama Ako app, we're almost 4,000 members already in the Isama Ako app. So if you look at our chapters, we have more than 40 chapters already, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, plus yung ating overseas chapters. If you look also at our sectoral representatives, organizations, we have more than 40, almost 50 organizations and coalitions already. If we put this all together, we estimate we have more than 4 million members, including our organization and coalition partners. So we are growing, and we are very busy forming chapters. And I guess this is also part of the question a while ago. How will we transform to campaign mode? Because we now have chapters grassroots on the grounds, not only Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, but in most and all provinces, we're already forming. And as I said, we have already formed more than chapters in the country and abroad. Thank you.
Thank you po. Attorney Howie, another question po for you. What makes each of the 6 candidates qualify in the Isambayan presidential list? What are the main qualities that you considered?
Well, sinabi na atin yung qualifications natin, yung track record, tinignan na most of them have been in public service and private, also in private work. So tinignan po natin yung kanilang track record at nakita natin na ang kanilang track record kumbaga maayos at nasasang-ayon para sa ating suporta at tulong sa mamamayang Pilipino at sa isang bayang Pilipino. Titingnan din natin yung mga sinabi nila o yung character nila. Hindi naman po sila yung mga nagjo-joke-joke o nagsisinungaling. So nakita natin na may isang salita sila, palabra de honor, kaya nakita natin na pwede rin silang masama sa isang bayan. And ang importante dito, Ria, at dun sa ating mga viewers, sumasang-ayon sila sa unity. Sumasang-ayon sila sa inclusiveness, no? Hindi naman sila tayo lang o kami lang. So they agree to the principle of unity. They agree to the principle of respecting and engaging and coming into the process and respecting into the process. So I think that is very important. And we see that they are not only capable, but physically and mentally capable also of running a national campaign. So very important yun, lalo na yung physical health, no? At saka kailangan transparent din. So we see that they are more than capable, but I guess we need also the help of the citizenry, yung ating mamamayan, para tulungan din po mamili ang isang bayan. Salamat po. Salamat, Rhea.
Thank you po, Attorney. The next question po is addressed to Secretary Alberto Rosario. Did all of the nominees commit to support the Isambayan's choice? You're muted lang po.
Yeah.
There po. Thank you.
The answer is short and sweet. The answer is yes.
Thank you po. The next question is from Kyle Atienza of Business World. The next question is, what are the plans of Isambayan to get the support of local leaders? Has the coalition already talked with local politicians and the respective parties? Ms. Etta Rosales, if you could, they want you to answer this question. There po.
Okay, thank you. I was actually out of the loop for quite some time. I was only able to get in right now. Look, we launched it March 18. What date is it today? It's June 12, right? So March 18, April 18, May 18, and it's not even 3 months old. So we have talked to some LGUs, we've talked to some barangay captains, and we are just in the period of forming our organizations. Yes, we have tried to talk to some LGUs, but you know something, I think that we have to look at the context of the political climate now. Don't you realize how timid and shy politicians are in trying to cross over to the position of opposition? Yes. Don't you realize, and this was pointed out a while ago, how big businesses are timid and shy to go outright because of the investments? They just cut the contracts. This was pointed out very succinctly by Justice Carpio. So the fact that business is shy, a bit conservative, and politicians are shy, so too are LGUs. So we try to understand this context. And the only way you can really get them to be a bit more courageous is to organize in the grassroots and to show that people from the grassroots are now being organized and are having more courage to speak out and articulate their positions. So it's a balance. Bibingin kaya yan. Pag naramdaman nila na mas marami na dito sa grassroots na naoorganisa, maralit ang tagalungsod, katutubo, yung mga binanggit kanina ni Tony Lavinia, marami yan na nag-oorganisa. Pag naramdaman yan ng mga politiko at ng mga malalaking negosyante, sasabihin nila, abay, mukhang okay pala. So ito ang strategy ng sambayan. We do things both at the same time. We talk to them, but diplomatically, we try to understand the politicos and businesses, but at the same time, we organize at the grassroots. Pero I have a question to ask one of the reactors, if I may. Pwede ba, Ria?
Sige po.
Oo. I'd like to ask Andrew. Andrew, by the way, I read your articles and I have been so impressed with the way you write. So I asked Justice Carpio who was this who was writing so, precisely and with such accuracy. I'd like to ask because, Wu Changpo came out with a very, very accurate, succinct, and no holds barred analysis of what to expect in these coming elections. It's going to be a troll game, he says. They're not going to talk about human rights. They're not even interested in justice and so on. It's going to be who has the best number of trolls. It's a money game because it takes, money to be able to organize your trolls. So somebody was asking, I think it was Maria Reza, that we do have to develop a scientific method of trying to address, digital communications. So, of course, Sambayan says, yes, we will do that. But I want to ask you, how do you reconcile that? Because how do we reconcile the fact that we have to have a moral advantage? We have to talk about what is right on human rights against misogyny, against autocracy. But at the same time, we don't have all that know-how about, the trolls, how to develop scientifically the communication system. Can you help us along these lines? Can you answer?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the question. Okay, my friend Buchak was absolutely right that the field of war is now in the cell phone.
Yeah.
The field of war is now in the laptop. But I must make a exception. Trolls are only the medium of the message. What will win the day is the messaging. Trolls, ma'am, just for your maybe perhaps for the entire audience who are listening, trolls are for hire. We call them a farm. They're a troll farm, and their mandate is to whatever you tell them to do. So they can laser message, or they can attack, or they can defend. But I think what will make the difference in this campaign is the messaging. And there are principles to messaging that we have to learn. And I have to say, I have to make reference again to President Duterte, because his messaging in 2016 was really on point. And I think the biggest factor that won him the day, that won him the election, is the absence of dissonance. In other words, President Duterte, in all his imperfection, was a match between the personality and the message. There was a marriage there. And if I may say so without offending anybody, just saying this as a matter of fact, when you talk about Mar Rojas and when you talk about Mr. Palenque, there is a dissonance because he is not Mr. Palenque, he is the owner of the Palenque. And people know that. So there are many principles to messaging. Another one, ma'am, if I may add, is confirmation bias. And I have to underline this. Confirmation bias is telling the people what they already are biased against. Okay, so we were pre-programmed as Catholic Filipino children to be against the Communist Party, to be against the oppressive rich, to be against maybe the incumbent government even, which is why it was no surprise that President Duterte made an enemy out of the oligarchs, out of the communists, and out of the past administration. He was only confirming what we already had the bias against, therefore making him the voice of the people. So my point, ma'am, is there are many communication strategies and philosophies that make up the campaign. While I agree that trolls are an important factor, the trolls of today are merely what was mass media, albeit without credibility, mass media in the days of yore. That is what the trolls are of today. But at the end of the day, what will win the campaign is the messaging. And I think people gravitate to organization and people gravitate towards the good. So I have no, I feel very confident. My sense of confidence is so high with Isambayan because we're doing this. We're taking the higher moral ground. And it's only underlined by the fact that the lower moral ground has failed. And the statistics prove it. So I'm quite confident, ma'am, about our messaging. Uh, disseminating the messages out is another challenge. Pero ma'am, that can be surmounted. They are not organic. Okay, sorry. The DDS is organic to a certain degree, but they're also funded and organized, which means to say that we cannot do the same. I hope, ma'am, that was a okay explanation po.
Yes.
Salamat po. Thank you.
But we would encourage more, consultations with you, if that's okay.
Hi, ma'am. I'm at your disposal. I'm all for this. I've come out publicly as a part of the opposition already, so there's no turning back, ma'am.
Thank you so much
I'm at your
po.
disposal. Thank you po.
Thank you so much po. We have our last two questions for this afternoon. The first question is for Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales. Do you think COMELEC will be capable of managing the elections, especially with the pandemic also coming into play?
We always hope for the best. We have to trust the integrity of the members of the COMELEC, because if we don't, we will be pessimistic. And I still believe that the people who have been appointed as members of the COMELEC would take the pulse of the nation. In other words, they would probably, I'm not very sure though, they would probably take the interest of the many, less in favor of the interest of the few. Thank you.
Thank you so much po. And for our last question for Attorney Howie is, how do you plan to do your campaigns during the pandemic? What if lockdowns happen again? Attorney Howie?
Ria, can I also
Hello,
answer?
Ria. Hello, Ria.
Yes po.
Yes, I'll give to Dean Tony first, then I can answer after.
Yes.
Tony?
Sige po, sige po.
No, I was going to answer the same question as Ombudsman Morales. Actually, as important as this partisan work that we're doing in Sambayan is also the work that many other groups are doing to have a COVID safe as well as an honest elections, because those are very important things to do and the work has to begin now. So actually, the Ateneo School of Government, I'm no longer dean there, by the way, it's Dean Ron Mendoza, who's the dean. They have actually put up a coalition, it's called Participate, with hundreds already of organizations that are working with COMELEC to get the budget right, so that we have COVID safe campaigns and COVID safe elections. So thinking about things like limited rallies, limited attendance, and all of that. But we can definitely have a good, robust campaign as well as a safe elections, and other countries have shown that that's possible. But it's also something that has to be worked on starting today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney.
Can I just add to that?
Yes po, go ahead po.
Ria, can I just add to that?
Yes po, go ahead po, go ahead po.
Just to add to that, to what Tony is saying, it's not really impossible. We must always remember what Leonard Cohen says: ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything, and that is how the light comes in. You know something? I want you to know that the community pantries that have been organized are now being open, to vote, register and vote. And maybe we can start from the grassroots, from the community level. And the kababaihan is thinking of coming up with komunidad para sa kooperatiba ng kababaihan. So maybe here we can ask the business sector if they are open to helping, even, show us how to develop cooperatives that can guide the kababaihan and the community people on how to register and vote, what to do, and how to organize and understand their issues so that the electorate, they can be sure to vote and come out with a material base in order to ensure that the votes, collective votes of Sambayan will tilt the balance in favor of the winning candidate. Yun po, you start from the community base. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am
po.
Etta. Thank you, Ria.
Attorney Howie, sorry, before...
Let me just jump in here, no? If you want to say something, okay?
Yeah, I know there's an added question lang po for you before you answer that question. It just came in now. Grace Po just issued a statement that she's not interested to run for president. Can you please comment on this? There po.
Okay, so look again, thank you, Ria. I think our comment to Senator Grace, I think it is clear that she is with us in forming a united opposition, agreeing with the Isang Bayan that we need only one candidate in the 2022 elections. And we respect if she would not like to be under the names of the presidential candidate. But we have also to remember that our list is for both president and vice president, or vice versa. So we must make it clear that whoever can run for vice president may also run for president and vice versa. So I think if that is her position, then we would respect that in the same light that we respect also the position of Senator Nancy and Mayor Isko. But then again, it is very clear also in our conversations that they are one in Isang Bayan in forming and agreeing that we only need a solid and one opposition come May 2022. With regards to the campaign, Ria, I think also with the statement of the LGU, LGU is one part of the campaign. Let us make it clear that Isang Bayan will make a new form of a campaign, or a better form of a campaign. It will be a people campaign. We have seen that. We have been successful in the Palawan experience, where the Palaweños won, the one Palawan won against the 3-in-1, against the machinery, the money of the local governments of Palawan. And here we will duplicate, replicate, and do that on a national level. We have learned it can be done. We can campaign in a pandemic season. Even if we are handicapped by this pandemic season, we can do it online. We can observe social distancing, as we also do house to house and our regular rallies and speaking engagement all around the country. We will not be stopped. We will not be hindered. It will be an obstacle. It will be a challenge that Isang Bayan would be willing to take up, and especially with the help of our youth. We have more than 4 million youth with Isang Bayan, especially headed by our youth representatives. We have 2 youth representatives in the conveners, and I think the youth would be very instrumental in our campaign, in our quest, in our fight for regaining our democracy come 2022. And maybe I would like to, I think one of our youth representatives is here, Ms. Renee. Maybe she can add for the participation as we go with the, of course, kasama na yung social media, online participation. I think the youth is very active with that. We have been working with that, and maybe a few words from our youth convener, from Ms. Renee Ko. Renee?
Hello. Thank you po, Attorney Howie. And siguro bago po ako magbigay ng ilang mga salita, gusto ko lang din po i-welcome at pasalamatan yung thousands of viewers ng Isang Bayan, Isang Boto na event na to. Meron po tayo, nag-peak ang 2,000 po dito sa Zoom, nagkaroon ng almost 3,000 sa Facebook at sa YouTube. I assume mas marami pong talagang tao. truly tinututukan po ng buong Pilipinas yung developments ng isang bayan. And we can see this doon po sa mga pinresent natin earlier, kung saan nakapag-form na tayo ng maraming chapters across cities, municipalities, regions, even countries. So ito po yung ginagawa ng isang bayan, and ito rin po yung gustong dalhin ng youth in this movement and sa lahat ng endeavors na ginagawa niya for the coming 2022 elections. Energy and vitality, and yung linking of arms and alliance building so that all of these groups will be able to enter our coalition. Plus lahat po tayo magkakaisa para ma-forward natin yung isang slate na talagang babangga directly sa Duterte administration. Pero beyond that, beyond sa pagbangga, nandito rin yung ating pagsagot sa mga napakaraming issues na dinulot ng neglect, ng maraming years of hindi pagkinig sa mga sektor natin. Lahat ng mga polisiya na pagkukulang na nakita natin, a-address po yan by talking with politicians kung ano yung mga shaping, yung mga policies nila. By consulting with these different groups, with these different sectors on the ground. Ano ba yung hinahanap nila sa candidates na to? At ito yung palalakasin natin para ito yung mag-shape talaga, mararamdaman ng pressure, yung public clamor, na ito yung hinahanap ng Pilipino ngayon. Given na meron tayong pandemic response na hindi sumagot sa needs ng maraming Pilipino, hunger has skyrocketed, poverty is increasing, at nakikita natin to sa grassroots movement din, like as Ma'am Etta said, yung community pantries. So given na maraming grassroots movement ngayon, maraming years of experiences din of activist movements, of different initiatives, kailangan lang nating i-link up tong lahat, makinig sa kanila, at papakinggan din ng isang bayan lahat ng mga tao na to through the different platforms that will be opened up, through the different consultations that we will be doing. May mga town hall pa pong na-organize and meron pa pong planned in the future. And sa pagpasok ng mga ng organization to, pag member nila, yung bosses nila mismo, yung bit-bit nilang sektor nila, papasok po ito sa proseso, sa information na namin ida-digest ng isang bayan and for other candidates as well. So, yung sinabi po lahat na yung the different ways by which we gather information, the different ways by which we will continue to shape policy through public clamor, through alliance building, lahat po ito gagawin ng isang bayan, kasama ng kabataan, ng iba't ibang sektor, para at the end of the day, we really see this competent slate na mapapanalo natin for the 2022 elections. Ayun lang po, gusto ko lang din po ibahagi na yung kabataan willing na mag-forward ng slate na talagang nakikinig sa issues ng sektor ng kabataan, and magagawa lang natin to kung lahat tayo magsama-sama and really to participate in the process that we have. Yun lang po.
Thank you so much to our conveners for answering the questions, and to all the people who tuned in and sent their questions. I hope nasagot po namin yung mga tanong niyo today. Pero kung hindi pa po namin nasasagot, please feel free to contact Isang Bayan through the social media platforms available to you. And before...
Ria, can we hear from Sani Matula before you introduce JP, please?
Is he here now?
Yeah, andyan siya.
There po, from Nagkaisang Manggagawa, Attorney Sani Matula. Nakamute lang po, attorney. Muted po.
Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating mga kasama. Ako po si Attorney Sani Matula, ang chairperson ng Nagkaisa Labor Coalition. Kasama po ang mga manggagawa at mga kasapi ng Nagkaisa Labor Coalition sa kusang ito, para at least may pakita natin ang isang malayang Pilipinas, malaya mula sa karahasan na nangyayari sa kasalukuyan, at malaya sa kagutuman. Gusto ng mga manggagawa siyempre na mataas ang antas ng kanilang kalagayan, at sa palagay namin ay hindi ang mangyayari kung ang kasalukuyang administrasyon ay mananatili sa susunod na termino. Kaya po ang mga manggagawa ay malakas ang suporta sa sambayanan at sa mga kandidato na mapipili ng isang ito. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Attorney Sunny. And before we end our program today, we'd like to call on Attorney JP Calleja, ang spokesperson po ng Sambayan, para lang po ipabatid sa inyo ang mga susunod pang programa ng Isambayan. Attorney JP, if you please.
Maraming salamat, Ria. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Lahat po tayo dito sa Isambayan ay kasali. Tayo na po't makilahok sa pamimili ng ating mga kandidato. Sa July 1, magbubukas ang ating voting portal para sa ating presidente, vice-presidente at mga senador. Huwag din po nating kalimutang sumali at makinig sa ating mga susunod na town halls o talakayang bayan. Sa June 19 po, ang Defense and Foreign Policy. Sa June 23, ang Business and Economy. June 26, kalagayan ng mga nakatatanda at PWD. Sa susunod na buwan din po ang ating mga religious organizations at ang mga kapatid nating Muslim sa Bansang Moro Administrative Region of Muslim Mindanao. Bayad utang ba kamo? Tayo na po't makilahok sa usapang utang, isang town hall tungkol sa ating international debt na pinamagatang Till Death Do Us Part. Meron po tayong app na pwede ninyong i-download. Hanapin lang po ang Isambayan app. Pwede nyo rin po kaming kumustahin sa aming Isambayan Facebook page o sa aming website sa isambayan.org. At syempre, abangan po natin ang aming final slate of candidates na tatakbo sa susunod na halalan. Huwag po tayo mawala ng pag-asa. Kung tayo ay magkakaisa, nasa atin din po ang ating solusyon. Tayo na po at mag-isang bayan. Maraming salamat po.
We have a video to show before we end today's program. Just some technical difficulties. Zoom is a little bit tough to work around, but we gotta make do with what we have, I guess. There we go.
Panahon na ng pagpili, panahon na ng halalan.
Mute po yata yung video.
Madami namang kandidato, madaming mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang forma at salita. Sino o sino kaya?
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kaya ang mananalo at magiging totoo?
Sa pagnanais ng tao, umulat sa madaling panahon. Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala. Sana naman, sana siya'y humira tapat sa bansa.
At sana kahit na sino manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la. Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan. At sana kahit na sino manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana
naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. Sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
And there you have it. Hello. There we have it. Hello po. Please do not forget to vote in May 2022. And if you are watching this and you're still not registered, you have until September 30, 2021. So please don't wait until that day, okay? You have so much time until then. And I hope that, like me, you all had an equally thought-provoking afternoon. Definitely a great way to celebrate our Independence Day, talking about how we can, in our own way, put our country first and free it from the troubles that we currently face. As a member of the youth, I am truly inspired to follow suit and all the things that you are doing, and in making sure that we get to where our country deserves to be. So thank you so much, 1Sambayan, for having me today. And thank you, po, for the reminder to be discerning when it comes to the leaders we choose and the agenda that they push. I hope that we can continue to work together to make sure that we elect leaders that will put the country and their needs first. Let's ring the bells that can still ring para ang manalo ay ang taong bayan. Isang boto, isang bayan. Piliin ang ating pambato. Bigang saysay ang iyong boto. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Salamat po for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.